It's coming to the end of the 2022 Carboot season. I thought I'd seen everything. That was, of course, until I saw this. But trust me, things are not always what they seem.
Get pick up! Building the gangster! Brush trips! Not get cutting!
Hello again, folks, and welcome back to this week's video. And that's right, we are once again out in the wild game hunting. And it does seem that the 2022 Carboot season is starting to draw to an end as the mornings get darker and a little bit wetter and a little bit more miserable. We're definitely starting to see the Carboot slow down a little bit. But don't worry, that's not going to stop us. We're still heading out to the Carboot, looking for games to add to our collection and also games we can trade into CX for that sweet, sweet trading credit. But before we head to the Carboot, I just want to remind you folks watching, if you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button and please subscribe. It really means a lot to me, and I don't want you folks missing out on new videos every Saturday live at 5, as well as bonus content throughout the week. I just want you along for the mad ride that is my game collecting journey. Now, let's hit that Carboot. Here we go then, it is bright and reasonably early, about 8 o'clock on a Sunday morning, and I think this is a good omen that today is going to be a good day. This nice little Toy Story homage on the back of this van gave me a smile early on a Sunday morning, and I think set up for a good day of carbooting. We may be in October now, but it still seems like this Carboot is going strong. Obviously not the same number of stores you'd expect to see in summer, but a decent turnout nonetheless. First stall of the day then, a good selection of DVDs and Blu Rays here. I always search through these in case there's any games, but one thing I've been thinking about more and more recently is these Simpsons DVD box sets. Yes, I know they may be DVD and not Blu Ray, but I just really like these. I think when these first came out, I had the first 3 or 4 seasons, and I have been tempted to pick them up again. It's just like, I know they're all on Disney Plus now, but they are slightly edited. I don't know if a lot of people have noticed this, but a lot of these have got some weird edits in, so it would be cool to have the original kind of versions of this classic cartoon. As you can see here, they did have a couple of seasons, and a couple of these were sealed.
How much yours?
So I was offered £6 for these free DVD box sets. I've got to say I was tempted, but it was early days at the Carboot, and I decided I didn't want to pass on this occasion. So here we have some Wii games, and Wii games at the moment are good for two things. Firstly, if you're building a video game collection, or especially if you're looking to boost your Wii collection, it is still quite cheap to do so. But trust me, I think these games are going to get more expensive in the years to come. Secondly, a surprising number of Wii games trade in reasonably well at CX, especially if you can pick them up for £1 or two. Like, I think the Michael Jackson game may trade in quite well. I do need to check that one. And the Just Dance games are always good to trade in. All of these games I did already have in my collection, but I was interested to see if I could pick these up cheap. As I said, I'm always looking for games to trade into CX at the Carboot. It's a great way to make some in-store credit.
How much your Wii games, please?
Wii games, Emma, how much are your Wii games?
I think the alarm's going off.
I don't know.
How much is?
They're not mine. What?
4 each. Thank you.
Undeterred by the most overpriced Wii games in the history of mankind, I headed on to the next stall and found somewhat of an oddity. So this, I think, was either a pre-order or kind of a special order bonus just before GTA 4. It basically had some Microsoft points and some avatar pictures, if you remember them, from the early days of the Xbox 360. And these are the kind of oddities I like to pick up. I've never seen this before. If I can pick it up cheap, I'm definitely going to grab it. Going through the other games, the games that did kind of pique my interest were the Dead Space games. That's because, if you didn't know, they are remastering the first Dead Space game soon. So I did check, and these games are not trading in for a super amount of money, but it's definitely a good time to pick them up cheap if you need them for the collection. And if you don't have them in the collection, trust me, you need them. They are fantastic games, but definitely not for the faint of heart.
Is there £1 on it?
Yeah, pound, yeah.
A nice little box of mixed things here. It might not seem like much on the outside, but these are sometimes the boxes that really hide some hidden treasures. There are some DVD box sets which I am looking out for a lot more now, thanks to the advice of some of you fellow YouTubers. And also there's a couple of games in here, but sadly nothing to write home about. But that's the thing with the Carboot. You need to root through every single box, make sure you don't miss those treasures. One of the main YouTubers I've been watching recently is Retro Rummage, and he's been given some really good advice in DVD and Blu Ray box sets to look out for. So I knew for £2 I had to pick up this Harry Potter Blu Ray. Just make sure if it's a box set, all the discs are definitely there. I will occasionally flip through these massive boxes of LPs you always see at Carboots, but the problem is I haven't got the greatest knowledge of these, but it's probably something I'm looking to expand in the future. Another stand, there was a couple of games here, but nothing really I wanted to add to the collection or trade in. Same with the DVDs and box sets, nothing really which has any good trade-in value at CX. But the problem is, you always have to check, as you never know what's going to be hiding. I would have thought this Family Guy box would have held a bit more value, but sadly, it doesn't. If you've been watching for a while, you know I'm always looking for oddities at Carboots. This copy of F1 2009 is quite interesting, as it did come packaged in a big box with a steering wheel. This was also very interesting, the Xbox 360 Wireless Entertainment Pack, as one thing it is worth looking out for at the Carboots is Xbox 360 controllers, as these are starting to trade in for some decent cash. You know, you can get £12 trade-in credit for these at CX if they're in good working condition, and the thing is you have to kind of check the sticks and especially check the back of the controller and make sure they haven't been opened up. There should be a serial number behind that battery pack and that needs to be sealed. That was quite expensive if I remember, so I did leave it behind. Went through some of the games and there were some cool little collectibles on this stand, but nothing really jumped out to me too much. Sometimes it's easy to be caught up with these kind of bits you can put around the games room. I was interested in picking up Viva Pinata, but it does only trade in for £1.40, unfortunately. I think it used to trade in for a lot more. I was, again, going back to that F1 game because I was very tempted by it. I had a second look, still decided to pass it up. It's very easy to get kind of distracted buying all these big box Wii stuff. Obviously, anything Fallout I'm going to have a passing interest to, but in the end, I didn't pick up anything here, but it was definitely good to see some slightly more interesting bits of what so far had been a fairly quiet Carboot. If this isn't nightmare fuel, I don't know what is. This Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle walkie, which was also a face mask. What kid would want this? This next stall was super cool and it was guarded by Mini-Me, so bonus points for that. I'm not sure if this person was a reseller, but I hadn't seen him before, but they had some incredible bits on this stall. So first off, we had these really cool Star Trek models. I'm quite a big fan of Star Trek, obviously nowhere near as big a fan as I am of Star Wars, but these models were super cool. I think these would look really nice hanging from like the ceiling in the games room, but I did decide to pass them up. At this store though, they had some vintage toys, and I do mean vintage toys. Like some of these items were like 60s and 70s. This was a standout for me. This like Ecto Pack from Ghostbusters, which was from the 80s. I remember having one of these absolutely years ago to fire those kind of marshmallows. And yeah, as I said, they had some really nice, proper retro, dare I say, vintage items on this stand. Like some of these toys, the artwork on these was absolutely incredible. Like, look at this Star Trek Super Phaser game. Like the artwork on this is absolutely incredible. I think this was like from the 70s. Very, very cool display piece. It would take up a lot of room, and I think it had a pretty high price tag, but very cool nonetheless. That is the thing with a lot of these toys. When I'm looking for kind of retro and vintage toys, I'm normally looking to pick them up slightly cheaper. These were mint collector's items. I think most car boots nowadays have these kind of house clearance stalls, and as it's been a quiet day so far, do you know what? I thought I'd have a bit of a rummage. You never know where you're going to find it. If I found big box PC games in here before, I wasn't really expecting to find not one but two brand new sealed copies of Jurassic Pet. Let me know in the comments if you've seen that before. I presume it's absolutely terrible. I did have a little peruse through here in case there wasn't any games in, but they were basically just kind of really cheap DVDs.
Look, some little love cats.
I was around halfway through the car boot and you could really tell it was coming to the end of the season as it was getting quieter and quieter. But the thing is with a car boot, you just have to keep digging, as you never know when you're going to come across the next piece of retro treasure. Just some random PlayStation 2 games here, sadly nothing to write home about, but you just have to keep digging, just getting into those boxes, just picking through bits, getting through the random toys, the comics, the books, the DVDs, the games. The main thing with car boots is just persistence. There's been weeks where I've been to car boots and found nothing, but you just have to keep going, as you never know what is around the next corner. And that's the thing with car boots, you're always going to be surprised. You never know what to expect. Imagine my surprise then when I caught at the corner of my eye this PlayStation 5 box. I could not believe it. A PlayStation 5 at a car boot in 2022.
Just a box. Just a box. I did wonder.
They're doing 25 quid on eBay, so
Yeah.
someone's 2 or 3 people already asked about it, so.
Sad I ain't even got what's in it yet. Haven't managed to find one yet.
Everyone's looking for one, aren't they?
Yeah, especially as up to Christmas now, it's going to get worse, I reckon.
Put a brick in it and put it in the auction, you'll make loads of money.
I'm sure it entices a lot of people over with it.
That's all fun and games.
So yes, sorry, there wasn't a PlayStation 5 at the Carboot per se, it was just an empty box, but I would be devastated if somebody gifted me that with a brick in. I would just be destroyed. But back to the Carboot, picking up some Grand Theft Auto games, always a good one to trade into CX, or so I thought. These have dropped in trade-in value considerably. A couple of months ago these were doing £5 each. I only just realised after the Carboot how much these have dropped. It's still worth picking up GTA 4 for £3, but that's the thing, you have to keep an eye on the kind of market of the games. Things go up, things go down, you want to be on top of those values. There was some other bits here, some SingStar, some Wii accessories, nothing too interesting, but glad to get some games. I was quite tempted to pick up this Nick Fury plushie as well as this Mario one, but then again I don't want to crowd the games room too much. Everyone knows it's already crowded enough. They did have a couple of games here, nothing too much to write home about. At the time I couldn't remember if I had Two Worlds in my collection, so I did have a look at this. It was quite a nice copy, but I did pass it up, but it's okay, it's a fairly cheap game in CX anyway and pretty common. Speaking of plushies, on the very next stall a wild Pikachu appeared. While I might not be the biggest fan of Five Nights at Freddy's, this little figure set was pretty cool. I do like the character designs of this game, even though the gameplay itself isn't that amazing, but the character designs are absolutely terrifying and I do really like them. We just really didn't have a place to put that in the games room, sadly. Carrying on, I did find some steelbooks, but sadly it was FIFA 16. But the thing is with steelbooks, if they're in decent condition, they're always worth picking up, as regardless of the game, they go for a couple of quid. I've said it before, but it's always worth looking through DS games in case it's a Pokemon game hiding. They did say this DS was in perfect working condition, but when I checked, it had a massive, centimetre long line of dead pixels for the screen, which was a shame. They wanted £12. This would have traded in if it was working into CX for 30 quid. So if it had been working, it would have been a no-brainer. You never know when your luck is going to change at the Carboot. I was looking through these comics and came across this copy of Wayne Gretzky for the Atari ST. The unfortunate thing was the seller didn't know how much they were selling it for, and when I queried, they went and checked the price online, which is never a good sign. I didn't know the value of this, to be fair. I thought it'd be a couple of quid. It was a cool display item. They looked it up online. It was £40. £40, which, to be fair, if that's what it goes for, that's what it goes for. I did quite like these little Halo collectibles. I know they're loot crate items, but I still think they're super cool. That Dreamcast was tempting, but I already have a Dreamcast. It was a little bit yellowed, but it still did have some really nice bits. And he told me in 2 weeks he was going to be back with even more retro stuff. So you know I'll be heading to that Carboot in 2 weeks' time and seeing what he comes to show with.
Do 8 quid on it. It's really purely because of the Stranger Things thing, isn't it?
I do like the Metallica one. The Wii one, but...
Did you say you've got some older games as well that you didn't bring with you? Or... Yeah.
Being here the week after next.
The week after next? Okay.
Yeah, next week I'm busy, but
Yeah.
I'm planning on being here the following weekend.
Okay.
So I've got some Dreamcast.
After inspecting the guitar, I knew I had to have it. If for nothing else, the Metallica faceplate is absolute fire. Up next, it was time for the weekly search through all the Disney Infinity figures, trying to find the 3 or 4 Star Wars and Marvel ones I am missing. Another week goes by, another loss. Another plastic box here of games, a couple of PlayStation 2 games, one I've never ever seen before. Ultimate Mind Games. It's very rare that there's a PlayStation 2 game I've never seen before. I know there's thousands, but I've never seen that one before. So we'd seen Mini-Me earlier, and next up we saw Kenny. That'd be really cool in anyone's games room. One item that I keep picking up is giant steering wheels, and I am seriously going to try and stop picking these up as they take a lot of space. This one was for Windows, so didn't really give much interest. I think the theme of this Carboot was just getting stuck in. You can see me here trying to get round another one of these house removal kind of sight. And yeah, there was a box of games hidden here at the back, and as soon as I see games, I'm like a shark with blood. I just have to get in there. There was nothing too exciting in here, but that's the thing with car boots. You have to rummage through all these boxes, as you never know what you could miss. There could be like your holy grail item just hiding at the bottom of one of these boxes. But trust me, it does take me hours to get around these car boots, as I will search high and low. I will not leave until I visited every stall, looked through every box, and made sure I am not leaving anything behind. Yes, it can be time consuming, but there is no worse feeling than knowing you might have left that gem behind. This is the importance of knowing the gaming market. I think nearly every week I look at this copy of Medal of Honor Airborne, and I need to remind myself it doesn't trade in very highly. Don't get me wrong, it's a really, really good game, which I definitely recommend if you're into your World War II first-person shooters. But if you're looking to trade in CX, pass it up. According to my wife, even though they're only 50p, our house doesn't need any Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles lampshades, but we agreed to disagree. And I really, really have to keep holding myself back from buying vintage VHSs. I think I've started and stopped collecting these 2 or 3 times over, because I always see really cool ones for really cheap. But the problem is they take up a lot of room, they easily degrade over time, and I just cannot collect everything. My favourite display of the day was this mobility scooter England Tiger Paul Daniels Magic Set combo, and there was some cool little bits on there, that Tetris board game, and there was this big box of PC games. Sadly though, they were not big box PC games, otherwise I'd have picked a lot more of these up. They were basically just your basic PC CD-ROM games. There were some really good titles in here, but again, it is something I'm trying to resist picking up. Even I was very tempted by this copy of Return of the King. I didn't really think they did a physical copy of this, so it was really cool to see. It was in amazing condition, but I did manage to basically leave us behind. Another thing you don't see very often at the car boots is PlayStation 5 games, but I think over the next few years we'll see a lot more.
What's your game, buddy?
20 quid.
20.
That's 15 quid cheaper than anywhere else.
Yeah.
They're still doing it for like 30, 35 quid.
One of my favourite games to trade into CX is the Call of Duty games. You get Call of Duty Black Ops 2 or even Black Ops, you can get some good money, but you can still get some decent trading from Modern Warfare 2. This still trades in for £3. Sadly that disc was a little bit rough, so I did pass on that one, even though it would have been a nice little trade-in deal. Going through the rest of the games, they did have a classic for the PlayStation 2, Super Buster Move, which to this day I still think has one of the weirdest artworks of all time. But let me know in the comments down below, which game do you think has the weirdest artwork? For me, I definitely think Buster Move is up there. The hunt continued through the car boot, and I came across this quite interesting looking box of books. One thing that did stand out for me was this WrestleMania hardback book. I'm a big fan of kind of art books, strategy guides, but you don't really get these for wrestling, and this was kind of a WrestleMania encyclopedia, which did look pretty cool. It had some really good artwork in it, but the main problem is with these large hardback books is storage. And while I may be a massive wrestling fan, I just didn't think I had the room for this, which was a real shame. It was coming to the end of the car boot. I was getting pretty desperate, picking up washable diapers for dogs, checking through DVDs, a lot of Wii shovelware, but don't sleep on some of these kids' Wii games. Some of these have some decent trade-in value. Sadly, I don't think any of these ones did, but trust me. So, weirdly, the Peppa Pig game is a good trade-in. Coming right to the end, I did take a chance on this copy of Ark for the Xbox One. They only wanted £1.50 with it, and the disc did look pretty rough. I tried the classic trick of kind of cleaning it on your leg, but for £1.50 I thought I'd take the risk. It may not be the most amazing week of all time, but it just goes to show you never know what you're going to find at the car boot. Here we are then, back in the games room, and I must admit, for the first time this year, that did feel like hard work today. Don't get me wrong, I'm not complaining, I still had a great time, but you can definitely tell the season is coming to an end. But don't worry, we still managed to get some awesome pickups for the collection. Recently I've been watching a lot of videos from the awesome YouTuber Retro Rummage, and he's made me realise I should not be sleeping on box sets, especially Blu Ray box sets, as some of these trade in for a decent amount of money. So you saw at the start of the video I went through all those DVDs, and I picked up this Harry Potter Year 1 to 7 Blu Ray box set. All 7 discs are in there and in really good condition. I paid £2 for this, and it trades in at CX for £6. So that's 3 times our money for one Blu Ray box set. It's bad news, I'm afraid, folks. It does seem that a bubble has finally burst in trading in the Xbox 360 Grand Theft Auto games to CX, as the price of GTA 5 has dropped now to £1.60 traded. I'm sure a couple of months ago this was trading in for a £5, and that's why I keep picking copies of this up. So it is a shame this has finally gone down in value. But I did pick up what it appears to be 2 copies of GTA 4 for the Xbox 360. So this still trades in for £3, so it isn't the biggest loss of all time. I think let's pick this up for £1 or 2. But this is not actually a copy of GTA 4. This is exclusive download, so it's gamer picks and 500 Microsoft points. If you folks are old enough to remember buying Microsoft points for your Xbox 360, this does have nothing inside it. It does have a copy of GTA 4 for the PlayStation 3 for some reason. I guess this would have had a download code inside it, but if nothing else, it's a cool little oddity to add to the collection. Sticking with the Xbox 360, I did pick up both of these games for just £1 for the both of them. I really wanted to add Terraria into the collection as I don't own it. It's not the most expensive game in the world, but picking it up for 50p is a good deal. I did just grab Saints Row the Third for some reason. I'm not really sure why. I just love this game so much and didn't want to leave it behind. I wasn't really sure if I was going to pick this game up, as the disc did look pretty rough, but after I got it home and cleaned it up, I think it was worth the risk of paying £1.50 for this game. Yes, I hear you say it is on Games Pass, but with the fact that PlayStation have also now added Arc onto their service, how long do you think this game is going to be on Games Pass? And if you wanted to buy this in CX, it would be a £10 game, and you know, at the end of the day, it's a world building game with dinosaurs. Of course I needed to add it to my collection. Here we have it then, our final pickup of the week. It is this Metallica Guitar Hero controller. Unfortunately, this is the Wii one, which is probably my least desired of the guitars, but with this faceplate, how could I say no? As you know by now, I'm a massive metal fan. I'm a massive Guitar Hero fan. Heck, I'm a massive Metallica fan. So I had to have this in the collection. If for nothing else, it is an amazing display piece. But seriously, I think too many people have slept already on the Guitar Hero and Rock Band instruments. About a year ago, even 6 months ago, you could pick these up super cheap. And now it's probably getting to the point where these are starting to get more expensive. If you look at the prices of these in CX, they have realised people are starting to get the nostalgia for these old games and want to play them. So trust me, if you see these cheap like I did, £5 for this is an absolute bargain. Of course, here is where I'd really like to put in a Stranger Things mashup using this guitar, jamming along on the top of a caravan to some Metallica, but no Metallica, I don't really want to get sued, so that's that.
Chrissy, this is for real.
There we go then, folks, that is the end of another week of live game hunting, and I hope you've enjoyed the video. Let me know in the comments down below if the car boots in your area are starting to slow down as we're near the end of the season. Spoiler alert, the Arminghall ones do run all year round, but they are weather permitting, and I think as we get into the winter months, it is going to be a little bit more sporadic when those car boots go ahead. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Hit that like button, subscribe, and as always, keep playing your game. See y'all soon.